Welcome to Money Mondays. I'm Timberland Langan, and we are here every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I want to thank you all for watching, posting, and sending us your questions and comments. And money, 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 money. Monday. I know you guys, you wouldn't like it if I didn't sing for you, so I had to do that as an introduction. This is my good friend, Mr. Samuel Lang, who's joining me here today. Today's stream is inspired by a post from a Facebook friend in the area that I love, and that is real estate. And by the way, many of you have been asking, when am I going to start teaching those real estate classes and the strategic money management classes? They are coming soon, hopefully in September, but we will definitely keep you posted. So please check out the website at livelikeamillionairenow.wordpress.com to sign up and just stay abreast of what's happening over here. And again, joining me today is my friend. I call him Mr. Lang, and he and I started teaching together many years ago. Well, I'm just going to say a couple years ago, a few years ago. And we actually were part of a real estate investment club that he and a couple of other people started. And you know, I am just happy to have him here. How are you, Mr. Lang? Welcome.
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's good to see you. Good to see you guys.
Happy to be here.
And I am so happy that you are here. Let's see who's joining us live. I can't see any names right now, and I think we go through this every week. I start looking around at the camera trying to see who's here. And I saw some faces earlier, guys, and so I thank you so much for joining us. And as I said, this question is a question that I responded to on the internet last week. And it says, let's hear both sides. Is now a good time to invest in real estate or no? So yes or no? And of course I chimed in, and this is my response. And I said, now is always a good time to invest in real estate. And I've been doing this for almost 2 decades. And even if property values drop, they tend to go right back up again. And it is, in my opinion, the best investment one can make. And I think Mr. Lang probably agrees with me, so that's why I brought him today. So I will let him answer that same question. Do you think this is a good time to invest in real estate? Why or why not?
I think this is a wonderful time to invest in real estate. I am particularly interested in multiple dwellings. And with the rents the way they are, oh my goodness, as long as you are able to pay your mortgage and then have extra money that you can put in your pocket, you're doing well.
You are indeed doing well. And this is a quote that I like by our former president, Franklin D. Roosevelt. He says, real estate cannot be lost or stolen, nor can it be carried away. Purchased with common sense, paid for in full, and managed with reasonable care, it's about the safest investment in the world. And that has been my experience as well, because I've invested in real estate, and I am one of those people who believes in buying and holding. And I've been doing that for over 20 years, and it's just really turning out very well for me. And some of you may know, I bought my first property, which was a condominium, a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, for under $40,000. And I did the math on that couple of years ago, and it was really up at the $1 million level for that one property. And if you do what Mr. Lang just said, imagine investing in multiple properties. Well, the math speaks for itself. So that's my thought, that it's always a good time to buy. And yes, and I love something that Barbara Corcoran said. She says, yes, the property's values will go up and down, but when it comes back like gangbusters. And I'm going to look for that exact quote. Let's see. I have it right here. I want to quote that because it was really quite good. In other words, it comes back. It comes back like gangbusters. Talk to me about that, Mr. Lane, because sometimes people think, okay, you know, that real estate crashed, the market crashed in 2000, what, 2005, 2000,
No, 2008.
2008. And then, people were alarmed. But I also feel like there was some strange things going on. People were buying property based on stated income.
Yes.
The banks weren't necessarily doing the proper credit checks and just approving loans for people who may not have qualified.
Right.
So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, the thing is this. During that time, a lot of people were losing properties, but there were a bunch of people who were making millions of dollars. They were buying multiple properties at that time and leasing them or renting them out at great positive cash flow, which means that above the mortgage, that's your profit. And there's some people who were buying, I met a guy who was buying like 30, 40 properties at one time because these were the properties that were, that people were losing, those people who could not really qualify under normal circumstances. They were losing them, and others were picking those up in groups.
Yes.
And they made fortunes. And
Right.
it seems like it's always a good time to buy real estate.
It's always a good time to buy real estate, and you're so right too, because people were losing those properties because they couldn't afford them, and so
Right.
there is a thing about timing
Right.
that
And
one
being
does need
able
to
to-
take in, and being able
to qualify.
being able to qualify for the properties and
Yes.
being able to purchase it at the right price.
Yes.
And my thinking is that I never want to buy anything for market value.
Right.
Never pay market value for anything. That's just my philosophy. That's
And that's a
always
great
been my
philosophy.
So I have always bought properties below market value. And so it really doesn't matter. I think whatever is going on in the economy, if you buy right, like you were saying earlier, and then rent right,
Yes.
then you're going to be in pretty good shape. I'm telling you, honestly, guys, I hear a lot of people say that they've invested in stocks and bonds, and that's great. I have not had the same kind of good experience, good success with that as I have with the real estates. And again, I buy and hold, and I've had them for a very long time. And I just don't know that I'd have made a better investment. I just can't think of one, Mr. Wayne. Can you think of a better investment?
And I read an article several years ago that said that 90% of all millionaires are real estate millionaires. So if you buy and hold for any significant amount of time, the value of that property is going to go up tremendously.
You're right.
I bought a 4-unit apartment building 20 years ago for $150,000,
Oh my.
and now it's worth in excess of $900,000.
Yeah. And where can you find that kind of growth, guys? You know what? And this is another thing that Marshall Field, an entrepreneur, says. He says buying real estate is not only the best way, the quickest way, the safest way, but the only way to become wealthy. And here's a comment. It says, someone made a comment here on Facebook. Let me just try to read that. Thank you for your comments and your feedback. It says, you know what? I'm not going to be able to, I think I have. You know what, guys? I cannot read your comments at this time, but I want to thank you for them. I appreciate you. But we are just saying that buying real estate is not only the best way, the quickest way, the safest way, but the only way to become wealthy, according to Marshall Field, entrepreneur. And I know that I have found this to be true in my case. It is just it's the safest investment one can make. And it does require a bit, like you said, a bit of a down payment, and it does require management too.
Right.
This is another thing sometimes people lose sight of. And I tell you, good money management is so important.
And property management.
And good property management is equally important to
Yes.
maintain your investment. And that's what we're going to be talking about in the classes. And there is a scriptural reference for that too, for how God did not even put before God, let me see, how do I say this? God was looking for people to manage the earth before he created it. So Adam, he created, the heavens and the earth, and then comes Adam. Adam was here managing what God had created, and he did a fine job of that. And one day I'm going to talk to you about that scripture that shows God's management style and how that works. And if you are a good manager of what you have received, whether it's small, and I say this all the time, whether it's smallness or, a small seed, then that seed will continue to grow and increase. But money management, property management, as Mr. Lang was saying, good management over all the resources you have. I remember people would share stories with me. They were like, okay, you want a better car, but the car you have is not well taken care of. It's not clean. It's not that. But it's all about, okay, let me be protective of what I've got. Let me take good care of the things that I have so that God can bless me with more.
Yes.
And that is also a principle that sometimes we neglect in this whole concept of management. If you are faithful with little, you will be faithful with much. And that is where I became, I'm going to tell my story. I started, 20 years ago. I was in a very small place, but I cared for that place as if it were a mansion. And in the process of caring for that and managing that well, more things came to me. And so that's kind of what I want to say about the real estate business. It's been very lucrative. We're going to be teaching classes on how to go about investing and being good managers. And I tell you, I cannot think of anything that I've done that I'm more proud of and that I see more of a return on than my investments in multiple properties. And I think Mr. Lane can say the same.
I totally concur with that. And now is a great time because they have grants that a person, first-time buyers, can get for up to $90,000 towards your down payment.
Yeah.
So how can you go wrong? And you can buy a multiple dwelling with that.
Yes.
And have your tenants paying for the note and everything you need.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is a very good idea. There's so many options, there's so much creativity involved, guys. And so we're just sharing things that have helped us along the way. And we are teachers. We are people who have come from modest means, modest backgrounds.
That's right.
No one, no one handed us anything. And we talked about it on another show about just the work ethic that goes into all of this as well. And a lot of times people don't see what's going on behind the scenes, but a lot of structure, a lot of planning, and I'm just thankful that you all are here today. And I can't see your questions, but what I will do later is I will look for them in the chat and I will respond. I want to thank you so much for joining us, and we'll hear every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I look forward to getting your questions, getting your comments. If you want us to cover certain topics, just reach out to us and let us know. All righty. Thank you so much for joining me, Mr. Lane.
Is it over?
No, it's not over yet. Mr. Lane, you have one more point you want to make? Go right ahead.
I do.
Absolutely.
What I want to say is this. Even before you start investing in real estate, you want to learn how to budget your money. You don't want to overspend. You want to be able to save at least 10% of your money. So it's important. A lot of times we see these athletes who have these multi-million-dollar contracts, and several years after they are out of the industry, they are broke because they did not know how to manage that money. So what you were saying about managing the money is extremely important. You have to learn to save a certain amount of money and then invest in those kind of things that will increase your money. It's very important that you understand that money is not just something to bling, buy a bunch of bling. It's about saving and investing. And then once you get those properties, make sure you manage them correctly. Make sure you get the correct kinds of tenants. You want to screen those tenants. Make sure you have somebody who's going to be able to pay those rentals. And if you do that well,
Right.
you'll be successful.
Absolutely. And you know what, Mr. Lang is absolutely right. That's all good property management. And he is so right too. In my book, Mind Over Money, I talked about how a lot of people who are very wealthy, these athletes who have these $150 million contracts, and at the end of their career, 2 years after they've retired, they are broke because they did not manage their affairs properly. And one of the last things I want to leave too is that when you think about leaving a legacy for your young people, for your children and your children's children, there is nothing more tangible to give them than real estate. And it's so important that you start teaching them the values that created the wealth now, so that when they grow up, they become good money managers.
That's
They
right.
become good managers. Because what I hear a lot of wealthy people say, that they are not sure that their children, they don't trust their children to manage their affairs.
Because they didn't teach them
And-
correctly.
because they did not teach them correctly. And that is why I say teach them the values that
right.
created the wealth, so that they will indeed manage
Maintain.
it and maintain it
Yes.
correctly, guys. Awesome. Is there anything else, Mr. Lang?
I think that's basically it. I think we covered it.
Well, Timberland Langan and Samuel Lang have enjoyed being with you today, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday. If you've got questions and comments and ideas for us that you'd like us to talk about, please leave them in the chat and we will respond. Bye-bye.